A cryptic photograph smeared with blood falls from a stranger's trembling grasp as Captain Sarah Bennett lands in a desert inferno. What deadly secret did she just unearth? A cartel kingpin's chilling whisper promises to shatter her world, dragging her family into a firestorm she can't escape. Was her courage a savior's gift or a fatal curse? Subscribe now. Help us hit 1,000 subscribers and uncover the truth with her. The relentless sun scorched the Texas-Mexico border, baking the cracked earth into a shimmering mirage. Captain Sarah Bennett piloted her Border Patrol helicopter, Sierra 64, over the winding Rio Grande, her hands steady on the controls despite the heat seeping through the cockpit. 3 tours in Afghanistan had carved her into a survivor. Sharp-eyed, steel-nerved, decorated with a silver star she kept hidden in a locked drawer back home. Today, March 3, 2025, she scanned the rugged Sector 7 for signs of life, her aviator sunglasses shielding her from the glare, but not the weight of memory. "Base, this is Sierra 64, she said into her headset, voice crisp as the desert wind howled outside. "Eastern Sector sweep complete, nothing unusual, heading back for refuel." "Copy that, Sierra 64, the dispatcher's voice buzzed through static. "Weather front moving in from the south, ETA 90 minutes, recommend expediting return." Sarah glanced at her fuel gauge, enough for one more pass. 12 years in the Army, 6 with Border Patrol, and she'd learned never to leave a job half done. "Roger that, one final sweep of Sector 7, she replied, tilting the chopper low over the jagged outcroppings. Low enough to catch footprints in the dust, high enough to dodge small arms fire. Routine, she told herself, until her optics locked onto a cluster of shapes staggering through the heat. 5 figures, 4 adults and a small child, wavered in the haze, their shadows stretching like ghosts across the sand. "Base, visual on possible distressed migrants, Sector 7, Grid Bravo 3, she reported, zooming in. "Elderly male struggling, woman with a child, 2 younger men, temps hitting triple digits out here." "Copy. Nearest ground unit is 30 minutes out. Can you maintain visual?" Sarah focused on the elderly man. His knees buckled, his face etched with exhaustion, lips peeling from thirst. 30 minutes was a death warrant in this furnace. "Negative. I'm setting down to render aid. They won't survive another half hour." Sierra 64 protocol states, "The protocol doesn't bleed out in 100-degree heat," Sarah snapped, already guiding the chopper down. Dust exploded around her as the rotors slowed, the whine fading into an eerie silence. She grabbed her medical kit and canteen, stepping into the blistering air, her right hand brushing the holstered Glock at her hip, a reflex from Kandahar nights. "Está bien, is everyone okay?" she shouted, switching between Spanish and English. "I've got water and medical supplies." The woman, clutching the child, a girl no older than her niece, Lily, stumbled forward, voice raspy. "Gracias. Thank you. My father, he can't go on. The coyotes left us when he couldn't keep up." Sarah dropped to her knees beside the old man, pressing water to his lips. His hands shook as he drank, but his grip tightened around her wrist, stronger than it should have been. Too strong. She started an IV, her eyes darting across the group. The child gulped water gratefully, the woman murmured thanks. But one of the younger men lingered back, his posture tense, eyes flicking from her gun to the chopper. "De donde venías?" Sarah asked, keeping her tone casual as she adjusted the IV. "A Michoacán," the woman replied, but her hesitation rang hollow like a line rehearsed too many times. The old man's eyes met hers, suddenly sharp despite his frail frame. "God bless you, lady," he rasped in accented English. "Not many kind hearts left out here." Sarah's gut twisted. His grip, his gaze, something was off. She glanced at the younger man again, catching a glimpse of ink as his sleeve shifted. A dark shadow with serpent eyes, the mark of sombra oscura. Her heartbeat spiked, but she forced her face to stay neutral, finishing the IV. "Help's coming," she said, standing. "You'll be okay." 2 Border Patrol SUVs roared up moments later, kicking up dust clouds. Agent Pete Lawson stepped out, his brow furrowed. "Bennett, we've been over this. You can't keep landing solo like some damn savior." "I don't watch people die while I circle overhead," Sarah shot back, her voice level but edged. She nodded toward the tattooed man. "Pete, check that one's wrist, he's got ink." Lawson's eyes narrowed, catching her drift. "Already got a vibe off him. We'll process him at Eagle Pass." As the agents herded the group into the vehicles, the tattooed man brushed past Sarah, his breath hot against her ear. "Careful where you land, pilot. Not everyone's here to be saved." She locked eyes with him, unflinching. "I'll take my chances." But as he turned away, something slipped from the old man's tattered coat. A photograph, crumpled and stained with dried blood. It fluttered to the ground, unnoticed by the others. Sarah scooped it up, her breath catching. A woman and a young girl stared back, their faces blurred but eerily familiar, like a twisted echo of Emily and Lily. Her hands trembled as she shoved it into her pocket. The desert silence pressing in. Back at Eagle Pass Station, the briefing room hummed with tension. Sarah slid into a seat beside Agent Laura Mitchell, her best friend on the team, who handed her a coffee with a wry smile. "Another rescue, huh? You're gonna give Thompson a heart attack." "Just doing my job," Sarah muttered, sipping the bitter brew as Chief Mark Thompson waved her in. "Bennett, good you're here. We're on last week's cartel intel," he said, nodding to Agent Reyes. Reyes clicked through slides, armed men, drug routes, maps. Sombra Oscura's pushing north in Sector 7, exploiting a power vacuum. Activity spiked hard. Lawson slipped in, whispering to Thompson. Sarah caught fragments. Scout, Sombra Oscura, landing zones. Thompson's jaw tightened. "Your instincts were right, Bennett. They're bolder than ever." Reyes flipped to images of missile systems and heavy guns. "They're targeting our air ops now. Military-grade stuff. Igla systems, heavy machine guns. They want blind spots in our net." Sarah leaned forward. "I faced Iglas in Afghanistan. They'll shred anything under 5,000 feet." The room stilled, all eyes on her. "2 tours with the 160th Night Stalkers?" Thompson asked. "And 1 conventional," she said, voice flat. "High-risk insertions, night ops. You don't forget hardware like that." "Then you'll love this," Thompson grunted. "New protocols, no solo patrols, minimum altitude 5,000 feet in risk zones." "Chief, I can't spot distress from that high," Sarah argued. "Not up for debate. I buried 2 agents to cartel fire, not you." She nodded reluctantly. "Understood, sir." Hours later, as dusk painted the sky purple, Sarah stepped outside, the blood-stained photo burning a hole in her pocket. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. Against every rule, she answered. "Bennett." "Captain Sarah Bennett," a smooth, accented voice purred, chilling her to the bone. "3 tours, a silver star, and a bleeding heart. You landed in my desert today. That was your first mistake." Her throat tightened. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who knows you. Emily, Lily, that little pony she rides. I admire your courage, Captain, but it's a currency I trade in. You just opened the account." The line clicked dead. Sarah stood rooted, the wind howling like a warning. She'd saved 5 lives, or had she just signed a death warrant for her own? The Eagle Pass Border Patrol station buzzed with late afternoon urgency as Captain Sarah Bennett pushed through the glass doors, her boots echoing on the tile. The blood-stained photograph weighed heavy in her pocket, its blurred faces haunting her. Too close to Emily and Lily for comfort. That call from the unknown voice, smooth, menacing, knowing, had turned her routine patrol into something personal, and she couldn't shake the chill it left behind. Javier Castillo, she suspected, the phantom name whispered in intel briefings about Sombra Oscura, but how did he know her family? She dropped into a chair in the briefing room where Chief Mark Thompson was already mid-argument with Agent Pete Lawson. Agent Laura Mitchell slid a styrofoam cup of coffee across the table, her dark eyes teasing. "Rough day, huh? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Felt one," Sarah muttered, sipping the bitter brew. Laura had been her rock since she joined Border Patrol. Same dark humor, same no-nonsense grit. They'd bonded over late-night shifts and shared stories of surviving a man's world. Thompson glanced up, his graying hair catching the fluorescent light. "Bennett, you're late. We're dissecting last week's Cartel intercepts. Reyes, bring her up to speed." Agent Reyes tapped his laptop, projecting images onto the screen. Armed men in tactical gear, drug caches, maps crisscrossed with red lines. Sombra Oscura's ramping up in Sector 7. They're pushing north, taking over routes from weaker crews. Activities tripled in 3 months. Sarah studied the photos, noting the disciplined formations. "Those aren't street punks, military training. Look at their positioning." Reyes nodded. "Exactly. And it gets worse." He clicked to a new slide. Surface-to-air missile systems, heavy machine guns, Russian-made Igles. "They're targeting our air patrols. Intel says they want blind spots in our surveillance grid." Sarah's stomach tightened. "Igles? Saw 'em take down Black Hawks in Afghanistan. If they've got those, anything under 5,000 feet is a sitting duck." The room fell silent, all eyes on her. Thompson rubbed his jaw. "Night Stalkers, right? 2 tours?" "And 1 conventional," she said, voice flat. "High-risk insertions. You don't forget hardware that can erase you from the sky." "Then you'll hate this," Thompson said, his tone grim. "New protocols, effective immediately. No solo patrols. Minimum altitude 5,000 feet in risk zones." "Chief, from that height I can't spot people in distress," Sarah protested, leaning forward. "Today I had a kid out there, 5 years old maybe. She'd be dead by now if I'd stayed high." Thompson's gaze hardened. "I've lost 2 agents to cartel rounds, Bennett. I'm not burying you over a maybe. Understood?" She clenched her jaw but nodded. "Yes, sir." Lawson slipped in then, his face tight as he whispered to Thompson. Sarah caught fragments. "Scout. Sombra Oscura. Landing zones." Thompson's expression darkened. "Bennett? That guy you flagged today?" "He's a scout. Admitted under questioning they're scoping helicopter landings for something big. Your hunch was dead on." Reyes added, "They're not just smuggling now. They're planning to neutralize our air advantage, create corridors we can't see." Sarah's mind raced, the tattooed man's warning looping in her head. Not everyone's here to be saved. She pulled the photograph from her pocket, holding it under the table, tracing its edges. The blood was old, flaking. Whose was it? As the briefing wrapped, Thompson pulled her aside. "You're one of my best, Sarah. But you take too many damn risks." "Calculated ones, Chief," she replied, standing straighter, hands clasped behind her back like she was still in uniform. "There's a difference." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "This isn't Kabul. Cartels don't play by rules. They hate women who get in their way. Last year, Javier Castillo had 3 female federales strung up in Juarez as warnings." Her jaw ticked, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm not afraid of him." "Maybe you should be," Thompson said, studying her. "What drives you, Bennett? Most vets with your record run from the fire, not into it." She paused, memories flickering, dust-choked streets, civilians she couldn't save. "I've seen what happens when good people back down. It's never pretty." He nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. "Just stick to the protocols. That's an order." "Yes, sir," she said, but the words felt hollow. Dusk settled over Eagle Pass as Sarah drove to her modest ranch house, the horizon bleeding purple. The lights were on inside. Emily's car sat in the driveway, a welcome sight after the day's chaos. Family was her anchor, the tether that kept her from drifting back to war's abyss. "Hey, stranger," Emily called from the kitchen as Sarah stepped in, the smell of sizzling enchiladas filling the air. Her younger sister's blonde hair was tied back, her smile warm but tired. "Long day," Sarah said, kissing Emily's cheek. "Smells like Grandma's recipe." "As close as I can get," Emily laughed, stirring sauce. Michael called. Wants to know if you can take Lily this weekend. Work thing came up. Sarah's face softened at her niece's name. Always. How's she doing with riding? Still scared of the big jumps, but she's stubborn, like you, Emily teased. They sat to eat, the tension in Sarah's shoulders easing, until her phone buzzed. A text from Laura. Scout talked. Big move in Sector 7 next week. Chief wants all hands. She set it aside, not wanting to worry Emily, but the unease lingered. That night, as she lay in bed, her phone rang again. An unknown number. She answered, heart pounding. Bennett? Captain Sarah Bennett. That same smooth, accented voice purred, chilling her blood. I told you courage has a price. You paid with 5 lives today. One of them mine. Who is this? She demanded, sitting up, the dark room closing in. Javier Castillo, you landed in my game and now I know you, Emily, Lily, that little ranch you call home. But there's more, isn't there? A soft chuckle. Afghanistan taught you secrets, didn't it? Things you buried with the dead. Her breath hitched. Her military file was classified. How did he know? What do you want? To play, Captain. You've got a friend here, Laura Mitchell. Ask her how she sleeps at night. The line went dead. Sarah's hands shook as she dialed Laura. Sarah? Laura answered, voice groggy. It's late. What's wrong? Castillo just called, Sarah said, her tone ice cold. Said you're in his pocket. Tell me he's lying. Silence stretched. Then a sob broke through. Sarah, God, I didn't want to. They've got photos of my son, Tommy. Said they'd kill him if I didn't. Didn't what? Sarah's voice cracked with fury. Give them your routes, your family, Laura whispered. I'm sorry, A gunshot cut her off, sharp and final, followed by the thud of a body hitting the floor. Sarah froze, the phone slipping from her hand. Laura, her friend, her confidant, was gone, and Castillo had her number. Sarah Bennett stood motionless in her darkened bedroom, the phone still warm in her hand, Laura Mitchell's final sob echoing in her ears. The gunshot, sharp, brutal, final, replayed like a grenade blast from her Afghanistan days, shredding the fragile trust she'd built with her best friend. Javier Castillo's voice lingered, his taunt about secrets buried with the dead clawing at memories she'd locked away. Night raids, civilian faces she couldn't save, orders she'd questioned but followed. How did he know? And why Laura? The betrayal cut deeper than any bullet, but there was no time to grieve. He'd named Emily and Lily. Her family was next. She stumbled to the kitchen, where Emily was washing dishes, oblivious to the storm brewing. The enchiladas sat cold on the table, their comfort mocked by the chaos in Sarah's mind. Pack a bag, she said, voice tight but controlled. Essentials only. We're leaving. Emily turned, soap dripping from her hands, her blue eyes wide. What? Sarah, what's going on? Just trust me, Sarah said, scanning the windows for shadows. Work stuff got messy. We need to move. Now. Emily's face hardened, the stubborn streak they shared flashing through. No, I'm not running blind. Tell me the truth, or I'm not budging. Sarah hesitated, then relented. The cartel. Sombra Oscura. They've got my name, yours, Lily's. Laura's dead because she gave them intel on us. We're not safe here. Emily's hand flew to her mouth, the dish clattering into the sink. Laura? Oh God, Sarah. What did you do to piss these people off? I landed where I shouldn't have, Sarah said, the blood-stained photograph burning in her pocket. Saved some people, or thought I did. Now they're coming for us. Before Emily could argue, headlights swept across the driveway. Too soon, too wrong. Sarah drew her Glock, shoving Emily behind her. Get down! The front door exploded inward. glass shattering as two masked men stormed in, rifles raised. Sarah fired first, 2 precise shots dropping the lead gunman. The second swung toward her, but she tackled Emily to the floor as bullets tore through the cabinets above. She rolled, returning fire, catching him in the knee. He crumpled, screaming, but a third figure loomed in the doorway, a silhouette with a syringe. "Emily, run!" Sarah yelled, lunging at the third man. He dodged, jabbing the needle toward her. She twisted his arm, snapping it with a sickening crunch, and drove her elbow into his throat. He collapsed, gasping, but not before Emily's scream pierced the air. Sarah spun, too late. A fourth man had slipped through the back, dragging Emily toward a black SUV idling outside. "Sarah!" Emily clawed at his mask, but he slammed her head against the doorframe, silencing her. The vehicle peeled away, tires screeching into the night. Sarah sprinted after it, firing wildly, but the taillights vanished into the darkness. She sank to her knees in the gravel, breath ragged, the Glock trembling in her hand. Her sister, gone, because of her. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number flashing. She answered, voice raw. "Castillo, you bastard!" "Captain." Javier Castillo's smooth tone cut through, unruffled. "You're quick, but not quick enough. Emily's with me now. A shame about Laura. Loyalty's so fragile, isn't it? If you touch her—" "Oh, I won't," he purred. "Not yet. But Michael? He's less fortunate." The line clicked, replaced by a video feed. Sarah's heart stopped. Michael, her ex-husband, sat bound in a dimly lit room, blood streaming from a gash on his cheek, his brown eyes. Lily's eyes met the camera, defiant despite the pain. A knife hovered near his throat, held by a shadowed hand. Castillo's voice returned. 30 minutes, Captain. I want Sofia Alvarez and Luis Navarro, the defectors you'll soon meet. Bring them to me, or Michael learns how slowly a man can bleed out." The screen went black. Sarah's knees buckled, memories crashing in. Michael at their wedding, promising forever. Michael at their divorce, begging her to stay safe for Lily. "I don't blame you for choosing the fight," he'd said, voice breaking. "Just come home alive." Now he was dying because she hadn't. She dialed Special Agent Daniel Hayes, her FBI contact, her words tumbling out. "Castillo's got Emily, just sent me a video. Michael's next. 30 minutes or he's dead." "Jesus, Sarah?" Hayes said, his calm cracking. "Where are you?" "Home. They hit the house, 4 men, one's alive. I need backup now." "On it. 2 teams en route, ETA 10 minutes, stay put." "No," she snapped. "I'm not waiting while they carve him up. Get me intel on Sofia Alvarez and Luis Navarro. Castillo wants them." "Defectors?" Hayes paused. "They're in play. Reached out an hour ago via a burner. Said they've got cartel files and a location on Castillo. They're at Malin Airport, Hangar 7, waiting for extraction." Sarah's mind raced. "Send the coordinates. I'm going." "Sarah, you're not?" She hung up, grabbing her tactical vest and spare mags. The wounded gunman groaned on the floor, clutching his knee. She crouched beside him, pressing the Glock to his temple. "Where'd they take her?" He spat blood, grinning. "Too late, puta. Castillo's got plans. Big ones. You'll see." She slammed the butt of her gun into his jaw, knocking him out cold. No time for games. She ran to her truck, the engine roaring to life as she sped toward Malin, Castillo's deadline ticking down. Halfway there, her phone buzzed again. A text from Emily's number. "Help me, Sarah, they're going to—" It cut off, unfinished. Sarah's vision blurred with tears, but she blinked them back, gripping the wheel tighter. Then another message, this time a photo. Michael, his shirt soaked crimson, one eye swollen shut. A timestamp in the corner. 28 minutes left. She floored the gas, the desert blurring past. Castillo had her family, her past, her every weakness. But he didn't know her, not really. Afghanistan had taught her to fight when hope was ash, and she'd burn his world down before he took hers. At Malin Airport, she screeched to a stop near Hangar 7, the sleek Gulfstream jet glitting under floodlights. 2 figures emerged. Sofia Alvarez, mid-40s, sharp-eyed, and Luis Navarro, older, silver-haired. "Captain Bennett?" Sofia called, voice urgent. "We've got what Castillo wants. Files, locations, everything." Sarah drew her Glock, stepping closer. "He's got my sister and ex, said to bring you to him in—" She checked her watch. 24 minutes or Michael's dead." Sofia paled, but Luis spoke, his tone steady. "He'll kill them anyway. These files can end him. Give them to your people, not him." Sarah's hand shook, the clock ticking. Save Michael or stop Castillo. The choice was a knife in her gut. The hangar doors of Malin International Airport loomed like a steel jaw in the dim floodlights, the Gulfstream jet inside casting a sleek shadow across the tarmac. Captain Sarah Bennett clutched her Glock, her chest tight with the ticking clock. 24 minutes until Javier Castillo's deadline. Emily was gone, snatched from their home, and Michael's bloody image burned in her mind, his life hanging by a thread. The desert night pressed in, cold and unyielding, as Sofia Alvarez and Luis Navarro stood before her, their faces etched with fear and resolve. "You're Captain Bennett?" Sofia asked, her voice sharp despite the tremble. She held a laptop, its screen glowing with files. "Cartel secrets," she'd said. Luis, older and steely-eyed, nodded beside her. "Yeah," Sarah rasped, her throat raw from shouting Emily's name into the void. "Castillo's got my sister and ex-husband. Wants you two in 24 minutes or... Michael's dead." Sofia's eyes widened, but Luis stepped forward, his silver hair glinting. "He'll kill them regardless, Captain. These files, financials, corrupt officials, his next moves, they can cripple Sombra Oscura. Give them to your people, not him." Sarah's grip tightened on her gun, the weight of choice crushing her. "You don't get it. Michael's got 24 minutes. Emily's out there, God knows where. I don't trade family for files." "You're not trading," Sofia countered, voice rising. "You're choosing who lives, hundreds, maybe thousands if we stop him, or just 2, if he even keeps his word." Sarah's phone buzzed, shattering the standoff. A video from Castillo's number. Michael filled the screen, tied to a chair in a concrete room, blood dripping from a slashed cheek. A gloved hand pressed a knife to his throat, his gasps ragged but defiant. "Sarah," he croaked, staring into the camera. "Don't give him anything. Protect Lily." The blade bit deeper and he choked, blood pooling on his shirt. Castillo's voice overlaid the feed, smooth as venom. 20 minutes, Captain. Bring me Sofia and Luis or he bleeds out slow. Your call." The video cut to black. Sarah's knees buckled, tears stinging as memories fluttered in. Michael carrying Lily on his shoulders, laughing at her first pony ride. Michael at their divorce, his voice soft. "I don't blame you for the fight, Sarah. Just come back alive for her." She'd failed him then, chasing war over home. And now he was paying the price. "I can't," she whispered, holstering her Glock. "I'm taking you to him." "No," Luis grabbed her arm, his grip surprisingly strong. "He's bluffing. He needs us alive for leverage. We know where he's taking your sister, a warehouse near Del Rio. Get us to the FBI and we'll lead you there." Sarah's pulse hammered. Del Rio, 30 miles west, too far to reach Michael in time, but close enough to save Emily if they moved fast. "How do I know you're not lying?" Sofia opened the laptop, pointing to a map. "Tracked shipments, his safe house codes. We've been planning to run for months." Her watch read 18 minutes. Sarah's chest burned with every breath. Michael's plea echoing, "Protect Lily." She dialed Daniel Hayes, voice shaking. "Hayes, I've got Sofia and Luis at Hangar 7. They say Emily's at a warehouse near Del Rio. Castillo's got Michael. 18 minutes left." "Teams are 5 minutes from you," Hayes said, urgency cracking his calm. "FBI's scrambling for Del Rio. What's your play?" "Get Sofia and Luis to safety. I'm going for Michael. Send me the last ping on his phone." "Sarah, you're one woman against..." "He's my family. she shouted, cutting him off. Hayes sighed, relenting. "Ping's coming. Warehouse off Highway 90, 15 miles east. Be careful." She hung up, turning to Sophia and Luis. "FBI's coming. Stay here." She sprinted to her truck, tires squealing as she raced east, the desert blurring into a nightmare. Michael's location pinged. 12 minutes away. Her radio crackled with haze. "Sarah, suspect ID from your house? Carlos Rivera, Castillo's lieutenant. He's talking. Says Michael's bait to draw you out." "Bait or not, I'm getting him," she growled, pushing 90M. The warehouse emerged from the darkness, a crumbling husk flanked by rusted silos. She killed the engine, slipping out with her Glock drawn, tactical vest snug against her ribs. Inside, the air stank of oil and decay. Footsteps echoed. 2 guards patrolling. She crouched behind a crate, timing their movements, then struck, silencing one with a chokehold, the other with a knee to the gut. She crept deeper, heart pounding, until she saw him. Michael, slumped in a chair, blood pooling beneath him. "Michael?" She ran to him, dropping to her knees, his head lolled, his shirt a crimson mess from a chest wound. "Hang on, I'm here." His eyes fluttered open, weak but fierce. "Sarah." "Too late." A knife protruded from his side, the handle slick with gore. "No, no, no," she pressed her hands to the wound, blood seeping through her fingers. "Stay with me, please." "Lily," he rasped, grabbing her wrist. "Tell her I love her, and you." "Don't stop, Sarah, don't ever stop." His grip slackened, his breath fading to a shuddering halt. She screamed, a raw, guttural sound, cradling his body as tears mixed with his blood. The room spun, grief clawing her apart, until her phone buzzed again. Castillo's voice purred through an audio clip. "A pity, Captain, but the real prize isn't in those files, or even Sophia and Luis. It's in me, a chip under my skin every secret Sombra Oscura owns. Catch me if you can." Footsteps approached, more guards. Sarah kissed Michael's forehead, whispering, "I'll make him pay." She wiped her tears, reloaded her Glock, and slipped into the shadows, a predator born anew. Castillo had taken her heart. She'd take his. Sarah Bennett's truck screeched to a halt outside Hangar 7 at Malin International Airport, the metallic tang of Michael's blood still clinging to her hands. His final words, "Don't stop, Sarah," rang in her ears, a haunting mantra fueling her through the grief that threatened to swallow. Emily was still out there, taken by Javier Castillo's men, and now Castillo's taunt about a chip under his skin, a treasure trove of Sombra Oscura's secrets, had turned this into more than a rescue mission. It was war. The hangar loomed ahead, its steel doors glinting under floodlights, the Gulfstream jet inside a beacon in the dark Texas night. She wiped her tear-streaked face with her sleeve, the Glock in her hand slick with sweat and blood. Special Agent Daniel Hayes' voice crackled through her earpiece, urgent but steady. "Sarah, teams are 3 minutes out. Sophia and Luis are inside. Don't go in alone." 3 minutes is too long," she growled, stepping out into the cool air. "Castillo's men could already be here." Her vest felt heavy against her ribs, the weight of loss anchoring her resolve. She'd lost Michael, failed him in that warehouse, but she wouldn't lose Emily too. The side door was ajar, a sliver of light spilling onto the tarmac. She slipped inside, senses razor sharp from years in combat zones. Every creak of metal, every shadow a potential threat. The jet's engines hummed faintly, still warm, and 2 figures stood near its open cabin door. Sofia Alvarez, mid-40, SS, her sharp eyes scanning the hangar, and Luis Navarro, silver-haired and poised, clutching a laptop like a lifeline. "Captain Bennett?" Sophia called, her voice tight with nerves. "Thank God you're here." Sarah raised her Glock, not lowering it yet. "You've got about 30 seconds to prove you're not a trap. Castillo's got my sister, killed my ex, said he wants you too. Why?" Louis stepped forward, hands raised. Because we betrayed him. This, he tapped the laptop, has everything: financials, corrupt officials, his trafficking routes. We were his inner circle until he ordered our families executed for asking questions. Somba Oscar's bigger than drugs now, Sophia added, her gaze steady. That chip he bragged about? It's got intel on law enforcement ops, names, safe houses, undercover agents. He's auctioning it to the highest bidder in 36 hours. Monterey. Sarah's stomach churned. A chip that could unravel border security, hundreds of lives, years of work, gone. Monterey, she repeated, lowering her gun slightly. And Emily? Del Rio warehouse, Lewis said. We tracked his last shipment there, high-value hostages. She's alive, Captain, but not for long if he gets us back. Before Sarah could respond, a shadow shifted near the hangar's rear, a glint of steel, the soft click of a safety disengaging. Down, she yelled, shoving Sophia behind the jet's landing gear. A burst of gunfire erupted, bullets pinging off the fuselage as she dove for cover, dragging Luis with her. 3 cartel gunmen fanned out, moving with military precision. Black masks, automatic rifles, no hesitation. Sarah peeked from behind a fuel drum, her pulse pounding. Hayes, where's that backup? She hissed into her comms. 2 minutes, he barked. Hold them off. 2 minutes might as well be 2 hours, she fired back, clipping one gunman in the shoulder. He staggered but didn't fall, shouting in Spanish, La piloto! Matenla! The pilot. Kill her! Sarah rolled to new cover, a stack of crates, her mind flashing to Michael's lifeless body, then to Lily's face, 5 years old, all pigtails and trust. She couldn't fail her too. Sophia, Louise, jet's door! Lock it if you can! Sophia scrambled up the stairs, Luis behind her, slamming the cabin shut as bullets stitched the air. Sarah drew a deep breath, then broke cover, sprinting toward a tool cart to draw fire away from the jet. A round grazed her arm, searing like fire, but she kept moving, returning fire with deadly accuracy. 2 shots, 2 hits. The second gunman collapsed, clutching his leg, but the third closed in, rifle raised. She ducked behind the cart, her hand brushing something in her pocket. The silver dolphin pendant Lily had given her before Afghanistan. For luck, Aunt Sarah. The memory steadied her. She whispered, I'm coming home, kid, and popped up, firing a single shot through the gunman's mask. He dropped, lifeless. Silence fell, broken only by her ragged breathing and the distant wail of sirens. The hangar door burst open, FBI tactical vests flooding in, Hayes at the lead. Sarah, he shouted, rushing to her side. You hurt? Flesh wound, she said, wincing as she pressed her arm. Sophia and Luis jet. They're legit, said Emily's in Del Rio, and Castillo's got a chip intel that could gut us. Hayes nodded, signaling his team to secure the defectors. We've got 'em. Del Rio's locked down. Teams are moving now. He handed her a bandage. You're a damn tank, Bennett. She smirked through the pain, wrapping her arm. Had worse in Kandahar. But her bravado faded as Sophia emerged, laptop in hand. Captain, there's more. Castillo's fixated on you, something personal. Said you're like someone he lost. Or destroyed. Sarah froze, the blood-stained photo flashing in her mind, blurred faces, a woman and child. What'd he say, exactly? Luis joined them, grim. Just that, a woman who defied him years ago. He's unhinged about it. You're not just a target, you're a mirror. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She answered, dread pooling. Bennett? Impressive, Captain, Castillo purred. Sophia and Lewis slipped away, but I've still got Emily. And that chip? It's ticking. 36 hours until every agent you've ever known is ash. You'll come to me soon enough. Where is she? Sarah snarled. Del Rio's a start, he chuckled. But you'll need more than courage now, you'll need her. The line went dead. Hayes caught her eye. What's he mean, her? Sarah's hand shook, the pendant cold against her palm. I don't know, she lied, but a buried memory stirred. Afghanistan, a woman's voice, a promise broken. Castillo wasn't just a cartel boss. He was a ghost from her past, and he was dragging her back to hell. The antiseptic sting of the FBI van's interior bit at Captain Sarah Bennett's nose as she sat hunched on a metal bench, her bandaged arm throbbing from the firefight at Malin Airport. The wound was shallow, a graze from a cartel bullet, but it pulsed with every heartbeat, a reminder of how close she'd come to losing everything. Michael's blood still stained her hands, his dying words echoing in her skull, and Emily remained a hostage in Javier Castillo's grip. Castillo's voice haunted her. You'll need her. Who? The question gnawed at her, tugging at threads of a past she'd buried under layers of duty and denial. Special Agent Daniel Hayes handed her a water bottle, his brow creased with concern. You look like hell, Sarah. When's the last time you slept? She twisted the cap off, taking a small sip, the cold liquid a brief relief against her parched throat. Sleep's for people not racing a madman's clock, she rasped, exhaustion wrapping her words in gravel. Any word from Del Rio? Did they find Emily? Hayes tapped his tablet, the screen's blue glow illuminating his tense face. Teams are sweeping the warehouse district. No sign yet, but we've got satellite and drones up. If she's there, we'll get her. Sarah nodded, but doubt coiled in her gut. Castillo didn't leave loose ends. Del Rio felt too convenient. A breadcrumb to a trap. She pulled the blood-stained photograph from her pocket, its blurred faces staring back under the van's dim light. A woman and a child, their features hauntingly familiar. Sophia said Castillo's obsessed with me, something about a woman from his past. Hayes, could this be her? Hayes leaned in, squinting at the image. Maybe. We're running facial recognition, but it's too degraded. Why is he dragging your history into this? Sarah's jaw tightened, her gaze sharpening. He mentioned Afghanistan, said I'd need her. I think he means someone I knew there, someone I lost. Lost how? Hayes asked, his tone gentle but probing like he was stepping around a live wire. She stared out the van's window, the desert night streaking past like a black silk curtain. There was a woman, Nasreen, local interpreter, brave as hell, saved my squad more than once. We got close. She had a daughter, 5, same age as Lily now. Nasreen begged me to get them visas, get them out. Her voice cracked, a tiny fracture in her iron shell. I tried, but brass said no, too risky. 2 weeks later, insurgents hit her village. Nasreen didn't make it. The kid... Hayes stayed quiet, letting her words settle in the cramped space. You think Castillo knows her? He knows something, Sarah said, anger flaring like a spark. He's using it to mess with me, make me second-guess myself. Before Hayes could reply, his radio crackled, an urgent voice breaking through. All units report of an explosion at Eagle Pass Bridge. Multiple casualties, suspected cartel hit. Redirect forces immediately. Sarah's blood ran cold. Eagle Pass? 20 miles from here? Castillo's splitting your teams. Hayes cursed, grabbing his comms. Command, this is Hayes. Suspect diversion. Keep a skeleton crew at Del Rio. Send tactical to Monterey. That's his real play. Negative, the voice snapped back. Bridge blast confirmed, casualties mounting. All available units to Eagle Pass. Sarah slammed her fist against the bench, the clang sharp in the tight space. He's thinning us out for the auction. We hit Monterey now, or he's gone, with Emily. Hayes hesitated for a heartbeat, then nodded. Agreed. I'll pull strings, get a joint op with Mexico, but Monterey's his turf. High risk. I don't care, Sarah said, standing, her eyes blazing. He's got my sister, and that chip could torch every agent from here to D.C. We end this. 2 hours later, Sarah stood at a makeshift command post outside Monterey, the Sierra Madre Mountains looming like silent sentinels. Mexican federal police and FBI agents buzzed around, prepping for a dawn raid on Castillo's hacienda, a sprawling estate with a private airstrip perfect for his intel auction. Sofia and Luis, now under FBI protection, had provided the coordinates, their intel painting a target too critical to ignore. Commander Javier Ortiz, leading the Mexican team, spread a map across a Humvee's hood. 8 heat signatures in the main house, 4 on perimeter. Castillo's likely inside, but we can't pinpoint the chip. Sierra traced the layout with a finger, her mind clicking into combat mode. He'll keep it close. Probably on him. We need him alive to extract the data. Ali's a tall order with his guards, Ortiz said, his mustache twitching. Ex-military, loyal to the death. Then we're ghosts, Sarah replied, her brain shifting to war footing. In and out before they know we're there. As teams geared up, Luis Navarro approached, his silver hair catching the first light of dawn. Captain, there's something you should know. Castillo, he talked about you like you were a puzzle he had to solve. Said you're the daughter of the woman who almost caught him 20 years ago. Sarah froze, the air thinning around her. My mother? Luis nodded. Texas Ranger, right? Took down half his network before. He paused, but Sarah knew the rest. Ellen Bennett had died in a cartel ambush, her body left as a warning. Sarah was 15, Emily 10. It was why she'd joined the army, to fight, to avenge, to prove she was stronger than the monsters who stole her mom. Castillo killed her, Sarah whispered, pieces snapping into place. And now he's after me. Luis's gaze softened. He sees you as unfinished business. But you're not her, Captain. You're something he can't grasp. A survivor. Sarah's hand brushed the dolphin pendant in her pocket. Lily's gift. He'll figure it out soon enough. The raid kicked off at 5 a.m., shadows slipping through the outer defenses. Sarah moved with Hayes's team, senses taut, every snapped twig, every whispered command a potential death knell. They breached the main house, flashbangs tearing through the silence, gunfire erupting in controlled bursts. Castillo's men fought back hard, but the joint force overwhelmed them, room by room. Sarah kicked open an office door, her Glock sweeping the space. Empty except for a laptop, its screen lit with a live feed. Emily, tied and gagged in a concrete room, eyes wide with terror. A timer ticked. 10 minutes. Hayes, she shouted. He's rigged her with a bomb. Hayes rushed in, paling. Castillo's endgame. We need that chip to find her. From the hall, Ortiz bellowed. Castillo's barricaded in the basement. He's activating something. Self-destruct. The house trembled, dust cascading from above. He's blowing this place, Sarah said, bolting for the stairs. Cover me. She descended into darkness, the air heavy with gas and scorched wiring. At the bottom, a steel door stood ajar, light spilling out. She edged in, gun raised, and there he was. Javier Castillo, tall and composed in a tailored suit, his finger hovering over a control panel. Captain Bennett, he said, smiling like a gracious host. Right on time for the finale. Hands off that board, she ordered, aiming at his chest. Where's Emily? Safe, for now, he said, glancing at the screen. Emily, still bound, timer at 8 minutes. But you're not just here for her, are you? For Nazreen, for your mother, for every ghost you carry. Sarah's blood boiled. Don't you dare say their names. Oh, I dare, he chuckled. Nazreen was a pawn, like Ellen was. They died trusting the wrong people, like you trusted Laura. He tapped his temple. This chip. Every betrayal, every dirty secret. Surrender me, Emily lives. Fight me, we all burn. Her finger tightened on the trigger, rage and grief warring inside, but Emily's face on the screen, pleading, terrified, held her back. You're not walking out, she said, voice cold as death. But I'll take that chip, and you'll tell me where she is. Castillo's smile widened. Just like your mother, stubborn to the end. He pressed a button, the house shaking violently, flames licking the walls. 5 minutes, Captain. Choose wisely. Sarah lunged, tackling him as the world erupted around them. The air in the basement of Javier Castillo's Monterrey compound was thick with gasoline fumes and the acrid sting of burning circuits. Captain Sarah Bennett's boots hit the concrete as she tackled Castillo to the ground, the impact reverberating through her already battered body. The walls shuddered, flames licking up from the stairwell behind her as the self-destruct sequence he'd triggered began its deadly countdown. 5 minutes. 5 minutes to save Emily, to get the chip under his skin, to end this nightmare. Her Glock lay just out of reach, knocked free in the scuffle, but she didn't need it yet. Not when her fists could speak louder. Castillo twisted beneath her, his tailored suit tearing at the shoulder as he landed a sharp elbow to her ribs. Pain flared, but she gritted her teeth, pinning his arms with a knee and driving a punch into his jaw. "Where's Emily?" she snarled, her voice raw with fury and desperation. He laughed, blood trickling from his lip, his dark eyes glinting with a madman's glee. "You're too late, Captain. She's wired to blow. 4 minutes now, I'd guess, just like this place." Sarah glanced at the monitor on the wall. Emily, bound and gagged in a concrete cell, tears streaming down her face as a red timer blinked. 4:17. Her heart seized, but she slammed Castillo's head against the floor, her hands trembling with rage. "Turn it off, or I'll rip that chip out of you with my bare hands." He coughed, still grinning. "You'd like that, wouldn't you, to play the hero again, like your mother tried?" He nodded toward a desk drawer, half open, a faded photo peeking out. "Take a look, Sarah. See who you really are." Her breath hitched, but she didn't let go, keeping him pinned as she stretched for the drawer. Her fingers closed around the photo. Her mother, a Texas Ranger in her crisp uniform, standing beside a younger Castillo, his arm around her shoulders like they were allies. Her stomach lurched. "What the hell is this?" "Your legacy," Castillo rasped, his voice dripping venom. "Ranger Ellen Bennett, my partner once. We ran the border together, built Sombra Oscura from nothing, until she turned on me, thought she could take it all down. I made her pay. Left her bleeding in that ditch for you to find." Sarah's vision blurred with tears, memories crashing in. Ellen's body mutilated, abandoned on a dusty road 20 years ago. Sarah, 15, screaming into the night as Emily clung to her, sobbing. That was why she'd enlisted, why she'd fought. Because her mother's courage had been her North Star, and now Castillo claimed they'd been partners? "You're lying," she spat, slamming him back down. "She'd never work with filth like you." "Believe what you want," he said, coughing as smoke thickened the air. "But she was no saint. She took my money, my plans, until her conscience kicked in. You're her echo, Sarah. Brave, stubborn, doomed." The building groaned, chunks of ceiling crashing around them. Sarah's hand found the dolphin pendant in her pocket, Lily's gift, and she clutched it, grounding herself. "I'm not her," she said, voice steady despite the chaos. "I finish what I start." She yanked a knife from her boot, her father's old blade, passed to her after Afghanistan, and held it to Castillo's throat. "Disarm the bomb or I carve that chip out right now." His smile faltered, but he nodded toward the control panel. "Top button, red, press it. But you'll still lose. The chip's my insurance." Sarah lunged for the panel, slamming the button. The timer on Emily's screen froze at 2:58, her sister's muffled cries softening into gasps of relief. But Castillo surged up, shoving her aside and bolting for a hidden exit, a steel hatch in the wall. Sarah dove after him, grabbing his ankle as he crawled through. "You're not running!" He kicked back, catching her jaw, but she held on, dragging him back into the inferno. The hatch slammed shut as flames roared closer, trapping them both. "You're insane!" he shouted, scrambling for a pistol on the floor. She wrestled it from him, tossing it into the fire, and pinned him again, knife flashing. "The chip. Where is it?" "Right arm," he grunted, defiance fading as the heat closed in, "but you'll never get it out alive." Sarah didn't hesitate. She sliced into his arm, blood spurting as he screamed, her hand steady despite the gore. She dug out a small metal capsule, silver blinking faintly, and shoved it into her vest. "You're done," she said, standing as he clutched his wound, the fire licking at his feet. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Daniel Hayes and Commander Ortiz burst in, coughing through the smoke. "Sarah, we've got Emily's location. Del Rio, locked down. Move!" Hayes yelled, grabbing her arm. She nodded, but her eyes locked on Castillo, now slumped against the wall, flames creeping up his legs. "This isn't over, Bennett," he rasped, his voice a dying echo. "Men like me don't end. They multiply." "Then I'll hunt every last one," she said, turning away as Hayes pulled her toward the stairs. Ortiz fired a burst into Castillo's chest. Not a kill shot, but enough to keep him down. "For insurance," Ortiz muttered, dragging Sarah out as the ceiling buckled. They stumbled into the dawn, the hacienda collapsing in a roar of fire and dust behind them. Sarah clutched the chip, its cold metal a lifeline to Emily and a Pandora's box of secrets. Hayes handed her a radio. "FBI's breaching Del Rio now. Emily's alive. You did it." She nodded, exhaustion crashing in, but Castillo's words gnawed at her. She was no saint. Was her mother's legacy a lie? And what else did that chip hold? As the team loaded into choppers, she pulled out the photo again, staring at her mother's face beside Castillo's. The past wasn't dead. It was bleeding into her present, and she wasn't sure she could outrun it. The dawn sky over Monterey bled orange and gold as the hacienda collapsed into a smoldering ruin, its flames swallowing Javier Castillo's empire, or what was left of it. Captain Sarah Bennett stumbled from the wreckage, the chip from Castillo's arm clutched in her blood-streaked hand, its cold metal a grim trophy of the night's carnage. Special Agent Daniel Hayes steadied her, his face streaked with soot, but her eyes were fixed on the horizon. Del Rio, where Emily waited, alive but fragile. The weight of Michael's death, her mother's tainted legacy, and Castillo's final taunt pressed down like a vice, but she forced her legs to move, boarding the FBI chopper with a singular focus: bring her sister home. The flight was a blur of rotor noise and static updates. "Del Rio team breached the warehouse," Hayes shouted over the din, gripping his radio. "Emily secured, bomb disarmed. She's shaken but breathing." Sarah's chest loosened, a sob catching in her throat. "Lily?" she asked, voice cracking at the thought of her niece. "With Michael's parents safe," Hayes assured her, squeezing her shoulder. "You got her out, Sarah. You got them both." She nodded, but the relief was hollow. Michael's blood still stained her hands. His last words, "Don't stop." A ghost she couldn't shake. And her mother, Ellen Bennett, Texas Ranger, partner to Castillo, the photo burned in her pocket, a question mark she wasn't ready to face. The chopper touched down outside a crumbling warehouse near Del Rio, its walls pocked with bullet holes from the FBI assault. Sarah leapt out before the blade stopped, sprinting past agents securing cartel gunmen, some dead, some cuffed. She shoved through a steel door, her heart pounding, until she saw her, Emily, slumped on a cot, a medic wrapping a blanket around her trembling shoulders. Sarah crashed to her knees beside her sister, pulling her into a fierce embrace. Emily's blonde hair was matted with sweat and dirt, her blue eyes red-rimmed, but she clung back, sobs shaking them both. "Sarah, I thought you wouldn't," Emily choked out, burying her face in Sarah's shoulder. "I'd never leave you," Sarah whispered, stroking her hair, tears spilling free. "Never." The medic stepped back, giving them space. "She's dehydrated, Bruce. Nothing critical. Tough as hell, though." "Runs in the family," Sarah said, managing a weak smile despite the ache in her chest. Emily pulled back, searching her face. "Michael? Lily?" Sarah's smile faltered, grief surging like a tide. Lily's safe with his folks. But Michael... She swallowed hard, the words slicing her open. He didn't make it, Em. I was too late. Emily's hand flew to her mouth, a keening wail escaping as she collapsed against Sarah again. No, not him. I'm sorry, Sarah murmured, holding her tighter, her own tears soaking Emily's hair. I tried. I swear I tried. They stayed like that, a knot of shared pain, until Hayes approached, his expression soft but urgent. Sarah, Emily's stable. Medics are taking her to Eagle Pass Memorial, but the chip intel's cracking it now. It's big. Names, ops, corruption on both sides of the border. Castillo wasn't lying. Sarah stood, helping Emily up, her mind shifting gears. Where's he now? Secure, critical, but alive, Hayes said. Mexico's holding him till we negotiate extradition. That chip's already ID'd 12 dirty officials and 3 major supply routes. Good, she said, voice flat but resolute. Let him rot. A week later, Sarah stood on her ranch's porch, the late March sun warming the Texas plains. Lily galloped her pony in the paddock below, her pigtails bouncing, a fragile spark of joy in the shadow of loss. Emily leaned against the railing beside her, a mug of coffee trembling in her hands, still healing from the ordeal. Inside, the kitchen radio played softly, news of Castillo's empire crumbling, his lieutenants turning on each other as the chip's data unraveled. Sombra Oscura's web. You're quiet, Emily said, glancing at her. What's eating you? Sarah pulled the blood-stained photo from her pocket, handing it to Emily. This, Castillo said. Mom worked with him, built his cartel before she tried to take it down. I don't know what's true anymore. Emily studied it, her brow furrowing. She'd never, would she? I don't know, Sarah admitted, voice breaking. She died fighting him. That's what I held on to. Now I'm not sure who she was. Emily squeezed her hand. She was our mom. Whatever she did, she made us strong, stubborn, alive. That's what matters. Sarah nodded, tears brimming but unshed. She called to Lily, who trotted over, dismounting with a grin. Aunt Sarah, look, I jumped the little fence. Proud of you, kid, Sarah said, kneeling to hug her. She pulled the dolphin pendant from her pocket, placing it in Lily's small hand. Your dad gave me this luck. Now it's yours. Lily's eyes welled up. Daddy's gone, huh? Yeah, Sarah whispered, swallowing the lump in her throat. But he saved us. Made me fight till I got you and Mom back. They walked to Michael's grave that afternoon, a simple stone in a quiet cemetery. Sarah set the pendant on it, Lily's tiny fingers tracing his name. Did Daddy save people? She asked, voice small. Sarah smiled through tears. He saved me, Lily, and you, by being the best dad and the best man I knew. Back home, Emily found a letter in Michael's old jacket, left from before his death. She read it aloud, voice trembling. Sarah, if I don't make it, tell Lily I love her every day. And you, keep fighting, but come home too. You're my hero, always were. Live for us. Sarah broke then, sobbing into Emily's arms, Lily joining the embrace, a family scarred but unbroken. The pain was a jagged edge, but Michael's words lit a fragile hope. They'd survive. Together. As dusk fell, Sarah's phone buzzed, an unknown number. A text. Game's not over, Bennett. Your move. She froze, the chip's secrets flashing in her mind. Had Castillo's reach survived him? She deleted it, stepping outside to watch Lily chase fireflies. Emily's laughter faint but real. For now, she'd choose this. Peace, family, a breath before the next fight. But the shadow lingered, and she knew it wasn't done.